Hi, welcome. In this video, I'd like to discuss the issue of lunging, where you're out with your dog on a walk, and before you know it, your dog is already into a lunging situation, already expressing that state of mind. And it becomes very frustrating. It can create a really bad situation. People can get pulled down. I've helped people who have actually broken bones. I mean, been injured from being pulled onto the street by a lunging dog. And especially you get into these bigger, powerful dogs, it becomes a very, a really bad situation for so many people. So really, the question is, how do you stop a dog from lunging, or how do you deal with a situation such as a lunging situation? Now, here's the thing to understand about, again, talking about the context of relationship. Again, understanding when the dog is into a situation of lunging, it's all becomes an issue about control, about who's in control, but then about fulfillment. A dog that is already starting to gain control in the relationship begins to see things as a supply source. The dog's state of mind begins to express that wanting, that desire to gain fulfillment that way. And so what happens is things will begin to trigger that state. The dog begins to anticipate, and so even when a certain picture begins to come together for the dog, it begins to unleash that state of mind. It becomes very, very difficult. And so for walking a dog that has a certain level of control in the relationship, it becomes almost an issue of avoidance. You're almost like avoiding certain situations because you already know things could spiral out of control very, very quickly. So the first thing to really understand is the fact that when you get a situation where a dog is lunging, pulling hard, lunging forward, you already have a relationship problem underway. The dog has already gained control. So therefore, you need to approach the process of fixing the relationship, okay, in the context of a process that's going to advocate relationship change. Okay, that's really, really important. So I talk about the difference between interaction-based versus engaging in a process that promotes trainings of learning-based exercise. You want to engage in a interaction-based process, very specific interactions that are going to change how the dog perceives you. It's going to begin to advocate fading you into the relational picture. Okay, that's the first thing. So again, you want to look at it as a relationship problem in an overall way, and then you can begin to focus in on these specific, triggering situations that cause this type of a, escalation dog state of mind, when the dog will begin to lunge forward. Now, again, so when you begin to engage in the process, again, you're advocating through the right methodology, you're beginning to interact differently, and then getting into these specific situations. This is where you're going to begin to get in tune to a dog's state of mind at a deeper level, which means you're going to start to anticipate that things are beginning to unravel before they actually do unravel. Okay, this is kind of like really, really helpful. Okay, when you encounter a situation, you're out walking your dog, and so you're anticipating because you already know, that okay, things can unravel very quickly here. I need to begin to get in tune to that state. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to begin to advocate having the dog walking beside you. Okay, right away, that's very helpful. Getting the dog to come into agreement, okay, with as a follower, to accept staying beside you. Okay, and the other thing is you're going to start to not look at distance, but rather dog's state of mind. Okay, not going to focus so much on how far you go on the walk, but where the dog's mind is traveling. So this whole thing about investment, you'll see the dogs begin to focus in or fixate, and this is where you want to start to interrupt those states. Okay, you're going to start to communicate through that leash. You're going to start to nudge that dog out of how the dog's fixing, and begin to apply influence, but in the way that is like nudging. Okay, so when even when I talk about nudging, it means that you're doing it in a proactive way. You're not waiting for the mind of the dog to explode. Okay, you're gonna start to nudge the dog out of that state of mind. The mind's starting to reach out. You gotta nudge the dog and start to work work the method in a way that advocates being in control and proactive. Now, another little helpful thing too you're going to be doing is actually turning the opposite direction, but not out of weakness. Okay, it's always about advocating that you're always remember you're always in control. Okay, you're always advocating leadership, and so when you turn the opposite direction, you don't want to do so because things are already spiraling out of control at such a level, and then you're approaching everything from a position of weakness. Okay, you want to advocate doing this in a proactive way. So as soon as you notice your dog beginning to fixate even a little bit, and you're sensing, okay, my dog is already starting, the mind is already starting to invest, you want to start to advocate, interrupting that state through nudging, and then actually starting to, just like the hand on a clock, okay, start to turn away from whatever that thing is that's beginning to cause your dog to fixate. Okay, but while you're continuing to advocate through the method, continuing to nudge and doing the push-pull, and even bringing your dog into a down position. Now, here's a little trick: is that when a dog's beginning to fixate, beginning to invest, sometimes you're better off beginning to immediately turn the other way, rather than do the push-pull in the down, because again, the dog is already visually, that window's kind of already opened up, and the dog's already gaining a level of anticipating being fulfilled, and the dog's state of mind is going to increase anyway. Even going into a down position, some dogs is just going to increase and increase and increase. So you're better off right away is changing the direction, focus, okay, by going into turning around the other way. And what that does, that forces the dog cuts down those visuals, but then the dog has to try to turn his or her head around to gain that level of connection. And so by turning the other way, it removes that, and while you're continuing to apply the method. Okay, that's the best approach. Then you can go into the push-pull, the down position, but then the dog cannot easily try to get shifted around. If they're trying to, then it's just a lot more helpful, because you can advance the method better that way. Okay, it just allows a better way of dealing with the situation while you're creating change. So the issue here too is you're not just in the management. Don't focus just on managing or containing a problem, okay, and trying to control that way just through moving the dog. You want to actually be, applying the method through interrupting that state. Okay, that's really key to create change, so that the hand of the clock can start to move, so that you can start to think about, okay, in the coming, say, days, approaching things straight on. Okay, but at first you want to turn away from whatever that thing is that's causing that, creating that, because again, it's about relationship. The dog's already overly invested. They want it to be able to lock in, and so again, you want to turn the opposite direction. So again, just something to think about when you're dealing with lunging. A couple things: you want to look at this as both a relationship problem, so you need to approach it that way, engage in the process that way, in an overall way, and then specifically with those things that will trigger the dog, you want to advocate the method applied that way in a very specific way, turning the dog in the opposite direction, and begin to advocate that way as well. So anyway, thanks for watching.